Breaking news, Hurricane Milton is headed for Florida as a Category 5 storm. It's expected to hit the Tampa area where people are still cleaning up from damage left behind by Hurricane Helene. And thank you for joining us for DC News Now at 4. I'm Mark Hall.
And I'm Annalisa Gale. Good afternoon. Evacuation orders are in place across much of the state already. Some gas stations in the Tampa area began running out of fuel as people filled up their cars and drove out.
Across much of the state, tolls are suspended, schools are closed, and some airports plan to close as early as Tuesday. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says the state has ramped up its debris removal process and says that more fuel is coming. Now, officials are preparing for the largest evacuation since Hurricane Irma in 2017. That year, about 7 million Floridians left their homes in an exodus that jammed freeways and clogged gas stations. Meteorologist Damon Matson joins us now with the timing of Hurricane Milton. Damon.
Well, I can just say this is a scary, scary storm, guys. Just the way this has strengthened in the last day is something that many folks have not seen at all. This is unprecedented in a way because, yes, just yesterday, Milton was a tropical storm, and now today it is a Category 5 hurricane, and this is the satellite loop with it here. Look at how well defined that eye is. It is locked in, and there is a strong core with this hurricane. The latest update that came out at 2 p.m. this afternoon clocked winds of 175 miles per hour. This is an absolute beast of a storm, and it's one that we are going to be watching closely over the next couple of days as it makes its way up toward Florida and slams into the Gulf Coast there, likely on Wednesday. Now, here, I'll say this right away, folks. Here in the DMV, this storm is not a concern for us, thankfully enough, but certainly, again, we'll be watching as it moves on and impacts the state of Florida. Now, back here closer to home, yes, we have quiet conditions for the most part. The one thing we've been dealing with here today is some breezy northwesterly winds behind a cold front that rolled on through late last night into the day today, and these northwesterly breezes are bringing in some much chillier fall-like air as we go throughout the end of this Monday. Going into the night tonight, we'll have clear skies. The winds will start to lighten up, and as that happens, temperatures are going to tumble out of the 70s where we're at right now down into the 50s by the 10-11 o'clock hour, and it's going to get even chillier before we get into your Tuesday morning. So we'll talk about the chillier air that we have in store here over the next few days, and we'll talk more about Milton. That's coming up in your full forecast in just a bit.
All right, Damon, thank you. Well, if you have a flight to Florida this week, make sure you have your flight notifications turned on for sure. Tampa International Airport is suspending flights after 9 o'clock Tuesday. St. Pete Clearwater Airport will also close after its last flight Tuesday. And Orlando International Airport is suspending operations starting on Wednesday. We'll have continuing coverage of Hurricane Milton throughout our newscast and on our website right now, dcnewsnow.com. Well, new details this afternoon after a man is now facing 3 counts of murder charges and arson following a deadly fire in Southeast.
Well, police and fire officials say 56-year-old Robert Simpson started the fire that killed 2 women and a man Sunday morning.
And the details of this case may be disturbing. It is hard to hear.
It is indeed. DC News Now's Randy Bass was there today as officials gave the latest update in the case. Randy.
Yes, officials today describing this fire as a devastating, deadly case of domestic violence. One of the victims in this case was believed to be at one point in a relationship with the suspect. The other 2 victims in this fire lived here at this home in Southeast. We believe them to be mother and son at this hour, and the suspect had already tried to set the house on fire hours before.
Possible domestic dispute.
Yeah, we were here last night. The guy tried to light the curtains on fire.
The deadly fire, the last of several calls made to 911 from that 23rd Street address between Saturday evening and Sunday morning. Investigators say the suspect, Robert Simpson, used to live in the home and had been previously romantically involved with victim Jessica Cunningham. 2 other people also living in the home killed in the fire. Margaret and Ronald McKinnon were mother and son. Police say in the days and hours leading up to the fire, there were multiple calls coming from that address. Cunningham also reported a domestic assault involving Simpson earlier in the day, telling officers he almost killed her.
What makes this even more tragic? People were doing the right thing. people responded, worked very hard, and still the outcome's terrible.
New court documents in the case detail what they believe were her pleas for help when the fire broke out. Screaming and struggling to breathe, saying he came back. The house is on fire. He came back. Police say they canvassed the area for about an hour when the assault call came in Sunday morning, but didn't stay at the home. Police Chief Pamela Smith today explaining the decision not to stay at the home even after multiple calls came in.
But we also put our folks back in service until we can find some other identifying information or circumstances that requires us to place someone at the home. I mean, we just wouldn't just sit officers at a particular location for an extended period of time.
And D.C. Fire Chief John Donnelly today said the city has not seen a triple fatal fire like this in almost 15 years. Yesterday also marked the start of Fire Prevention Week. In Southeast, I'm Randy Bass, D.C. News Now.
Thank you. Well, today marks a year since Hamas terrorists launched a surprise attack on Israel.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared war against Hamas hours later, and since October 7th, thousands have died and hundreds held hostage. Now, the world pausing today to remember the victims and pray for the hostages still being held captive. A year later, the war in Gaza rages on, and tensions in the Middle East are intensifying.
Now, world leaders have been calling for a ceasefire for months. So are students at college campuses across the nation, including at the University of Maryland.
And right now on campus, the group Students for Justice in Palestine is holding a vigil after a federal judge overrode the university's request to ban student-sponsored events on October 7th. The UMD Jewish student group holding their own event at the Maryland Hillel Center this evening. Our D.C. police and the Secret Service say that they are working with local, state, and federal law enforcement to monitor events unfolding worldwide. Extra fencing also up around the area near the White House.
Also, right now, today marks again a year since the attacks on Israel by Hamas. And in Montgomery County, officials there are increasing police presence throughout Jewish synagogues.
D.C. News Now's Christian Pena joins us from Bethesda, Maryland, where places of worship have ramped up security.
Montgomery County Police are visibly stepping up officers today, especially near synagogues, sending reassurance to the area's Jewish community.
If we're having a bar mitzvah, if we're having a worship service, anytime we have more than a few people in our building, we have to have police.
Ron Halber, CEO of the Jewish Community Relationships Council, works with over 100 synagogues across the DMV. He says many of them have seen an uptick in anti-Semitic attacks since the war in the Middle East began.
We're used to, when events in the Middle East with Israel heat up, that there are some repercussions impacting Jewish communities outside the state of Israel. But nothing is like this before.
According to the Anti-Defamation League, over 10,000 anti-Semitic incidents have occurred in the U.S. since Hamas attacked Israel. It's the highest number of incidents ever recorded by the ADL in a one-year period.
It's upsetting. I think the most frustrating thing is that the vandalism doesn't achieve, I think, what the desired outcome is.
This past summer, Garrett's congregation in Bethesda was vandalized not once, but twice in a span of less than 2 weeks. Her congregation is now on high alert as they hire security to keep people safe.
There's always fear and concern over security, but I think that what we've experienced more is actually people showing up and wanting to be together in community.
The county since then has approved a $1.2 million commitment to help faith organizations from hate crimes. A move Halber says will ease worship places from the hefty tax security brings.
MCPD says there are no imminent threats to the area and that this is all part of a proactive measure to ensure that people in the area remain safe. For now, reporting in Bethesda, Maryland, I'm Christian Pena, DC News Now.
All right, Christian, thank you. Happening in Virginia, this man wanted in connection to a shooting near Dulles Airport. Muhammad Abdallah is the name of the suspect. He's accused of shooting someone in the World Gate Shopping Center Sunday night in Herndon. Abdallah was last seen driving on the Dulles Toll Road. He is considered armed and dangerous, and if you see him, do not approach him. Call 911.
Also happening in the district this evening, police are looking for the suspect in a deadly triple shooting in Northeast Washington. It happened Saturday morning around 2. Police say the suspect shot 2 men and a woman at the intersection of Trinidad and Queen Streets. One of the men died. He has been identified as Najee Nickens.
A group of kayakers hoisted from the Potomac River and airlifted to safety. 10 people were rescued Sunday in the area of Seneca Creek. The Maryland State Police Aviation Command flew 4 of them to land when the kayakers became stranded in rough water. The rescue took about an hour. No injuries were reported.
Well, turning now to sports, the Washington Commanders are 4-1 for the first time since 2008 after their 34-13 win over the Cleveland Browns on Sunday.
Well, this marks the 4th straight victory for the team as they enter a big week.
Yes, Sports Director Derek Forrest joining us now as the Commanders are looking to keep up this momentum. It's exciting for fans and hard to get tickets now, Derek.
Yeah, it's starting to get that way. The more they continue to win, the better, or the more people are supporting this team. Now, we saw another solid performance from the Washington Commanders as they once again took care of business, beating the Cleveland Browns 34-13 to improve to 4-1 on the year. So now the excitement is really building across the DMV. Now, as good as quarterback Jaden Daniels has been, the defense was just as good, if not better, Sunday. Now, they got to Deshaun Watson 7 times for sacks and forced a turnover, and we are really starting to see the defensive side of the ball come together and make plays the last couple of weeks. And Dan Quinn says it's because the team is finally starting to wrap up and tackle better.
Part when you have a game where you can tackle, it means our tracking is getting better, the technique to go through that. I love the energy that our special teams groups are bringing in terms of the coverage aspect, and you know, on those ones, those are tackling opportunities too. So I think the more that we're doing this, you know, the better the tackling is becoming.
Now, the Commanders will have their first honest test of the season as they will head on the road to take on the Baltimore Ravens this weekend over at M&T Bank Stadium. Now, Baltimore is now 3-2 on the year and back in first place in the AFC North, so we will have a matchup of 2 first-place teams going head-to-head Sunday at 1 p.m. Guys.
All right, Derek, thank you. Well, hoping to find some tickets under 100. We'll see. They're 300 right now.
If not, you're just going to watch it at home.
And that's the best place to be.
Absolutely. Well, in Virginia, if you haven't paid your car tax yet, today's the last day to do so. You can pay online or in person depending on where you live. Remember, if you're a college student from another state, you could qualify for an exemption. Those with vehicles registered out of state but living in Virginia are also subject to the car tax.